We're going to move forward here. It actually says 1995, which is a date that this product was actually developed. It was actually released in 1996, and we'll have its big anniversary next year. But imagine the concept of a digital production environment, digital world. By 1995, everything was digital, and there was an engineer at Eventide that worked on a number of their digital products. The Ultra Harmonizer series, this musician and engineer by the name of Dave Derr. And he heard things in digital that digital's fine for certain things, and he heard things he didn't like. And one thing was, he loved the idea of the even harmonic distortion that could be added. He loved the idea of the smoothness of analog compression. And so, while he was working at Eventide, he started to work out the designs to create something that would be completely different, which was a product called the Distressor. And it was a typical case of, you know, almost a garage, I assume, startup. You know, underfunded, you know, trying to get out there on his own, trying to get some help. And it was a leap of faith. He went out and said, okay, I'm going to do this product. And it was not an instant success. He was lucky enough to encounter a guy by the name of Griffith, who was also a former Eventide guy, but a smart marketing guy, a guy who knew how to sell things, had connections, knew the dealers, knew the structure, all these things that Dave had no concept with. And the two of them worked together, and they launched this product, the Distressor. Of course, they didn't have any money in terms of marketing it and buying people off. So they launched this product with in 1996 with little fanfare. And I heard this product, I think it was at an AES show, and I was floored. He said, man, here's a couple of guys who they don't have any money to promote this. They don't know, they need to get the word out. And I heard this product and I was just absolutely floored by it. I said, man, this thing's amazing. I love the sound of this thing. And so I was the editor of Mix Magazine at the time. And I assigned one of our reviewers, I said, Barry Cleveland, who was later the associate editor of Guitar Player magazine. Really smart guy, amazing guitar player, great studio guy, great producer, composer. I said, check this out. I want you to check this out. And he went and Barry plugged it in and said, this is like the coolest thing ever. It's the greatest thing since sliced cheese. And the review came out, and I was talking to Dave about this product today. He said, yeah, it was bizarre. We had like, our sales were like, Review comes out, and this product really, you know, took off, and people started to notice it. And sometimes it's really important for people in the press to realize that a small amount of effort on your part can make a huge change in people's lives and help promote things and find things that are really cool and dig, find great things and help promote things. And so anyway, in a small part I had, I can't say I had anything to do with the success of the Distressor, because that came from the genius of Dave Derr and the hard work of Gil Griffith, and the two of them working together to make this amazing product. And I believe so far they've sold like 17,000?
28,000.
How many?
28,000.
28,000. Well, actually the 17,000 plus the 11,000 you gave me for my drum kit. Just to make sure it sounds good. And they put those cool giant knobs on there, which is always good, because when you see the photos in the studio racks or in the live sound racks, you see those those four big white knobs, you go, Distressor, just like you'd see the NS10s with the white cones. Very distinctive. Anyway, both of them are here today to receive this. And for a thing that bucks the trend in the days of digital, here's an amazing analog success story, right from the heart of Dave Derr and assisted by Gil Griffith. And they're here, or they left. They fell asleep. Well, congratulations, man.
Yeah, and you cut yourself a little short there. George made the big leap of faith because, you know, we were Gil and I were at Eventide for many years together. We did the H3000, DSP 4000, and it was more or less a basement type startup. I had a little studio, and we had no money. I mean, I was basically, you know, at the end of the month after I paid my rent, I'd go, and that would be it. But George did take a leap of faith. After we had designed this, it was really, I mean, really, if we hadn't gotten the review and mix, we were together at that time. Just before that, we had started working together because we were at Eventide. But anyway, that leap of faith of getting us into the Mix magazine allowed us to buy the parts for the first set of orders that came in. And you know, anybody that's actually made anything, excuse me, made anything knows that having money to buy parts is really necessary. And you know, banks won't give you money until you don't need it. And I literally went to 4 or 5 banks. I had pretty good credit, I just didn't have any money. And they don't care about my credit. What money do you have? And I had, you know, $200,000, $300,000 worth of studio equipment, which to them, you know, I might as well said, I've got turtleneck sweaters that are diesel powered. You know, didn't mean anything. But anyway, he asked me to just say a little bit how it came about. And the fact is, I had this little studio, and several people today have talked about products that came into their lives, that changed their lives. And I had the same thing happen to me. I had a whole bunch of analog compressors, very relatively inexpensive ones, and a couple expensive ones that were new. And when I got my first 1176 and Gain Brain 1, they immediately changed the quality of my sound. All of a sudden things started to sound a little like a record. And so being in the engineering part of things, I took one of the 1176s apart, Gain Brain apart, and the LA2A was the other big influence. And because at that time they were not being made, the UREI was really not making hardware at that time. This is probably like, I'm thinking 88, 89 when I first started thinking about this. And again, ever since I was in a band, I loved compression because I heard what it did to the drums and vocals. But anyway, those 2 products, especially the Gain Brain 1 and the 1176, changed my sound. And I said, what is it about this 30 or 40-year-old device that they can't do now? You know, why aren't we getting the sound? And of course, there were a few basic things. But anyway, so I basically started playing with little teeny circuits, you know, little boards like this, that were the germ of that sound. And it became pretty obvious what needed to be done to get the sound. What I didn't know, though, was that every one of those 1176s, every LA2A was different from one another. And when I came upon that realization, I said, well, I don't want to make something that's different from one another. I want to make something that's very consistent. So started on a little course to find out how to do that. And then, of course, there was also the tactile feel. And one of the things I immediately did was start a knob search. And believe it or not, it was, what do you think it was, a year from when I first started looking for knobs to...
At least.
Knobs? Yeah, knobs. Gotta have big knobs. And we ended up customizing someone else's knob, put them on the front. And right about that time, was about 94, I'd been out of Eventide for about 2 or 3 years. I had my studio going on. And first time anybody that's ever designed anything and actually used it in a professional environment, the first time you pull it out and actually start to put it on something like a vocal or something, you're kind of like, I hope they don't notice what I'm putting on their vocal, you know? So the first time you use it, with great trepidation, you're kind of nervous, like, they're paying me to try this thing out on, you know? That's the way you're thinking. And fortunately, no one ever complained. And I kept tweaking it, and eventually it became preferable than, for my use, than some of the older stuff because it was quieter and again reproducible. And I don't want to go on and on here, but essentially we've been very lucky. A lot of people, George Massenberg was one of the first early adopters. I think the thing that led to the review and mix was actually Fletcher from Mercenary Audio had a booth at I think it was the 95 AES. And I had sent Fletcher one of these things, and Fletcher did not like anything new. And I said, he's not going to like this because it's new. But I sent it to him anyway, and Fletcher was like, where are you at the show? And I said, we're not really at the show. And he goes, yes, you are. I said, no, we're not there. I'm going to be at the show, but I don't have a booth. He goes, you're in my booth. And I think that's where you saw us. We were actually in Fletcher's booth. And that was back in the days when Fletcher used to draw the salesman of the month or a year or whatever. They would have them lay down on the floor and they'd do a chalk outline. The body. Yeah, the body on the floor. And I stood right next to that body. And it was actually Dave from Crane Song also. It was his first show also. And Fletcher got us both in booth. So a few early adopters, Fletcher, George Massenberg, who am I forgetting? Lots of different people.
Yeah.
It's the shorter list is people that haven't used it.
You're forgetting 28,000 people.
Yeah, I actually do have notes here, which I tried not to rely on. I had an engineer working in my studio, John Petersen, who started working with Phil Ramone. And one of Phil's early projects, not early, I don't know what I'm saying, one of his projects was in his house, and they had a little teeny room. And they wanted to make the drums sound bigger in this little room. Of course, you could use a reverb or whatever, but John was a very organic engineer, and he had a distressor because he liked it and wanted to use it. He says, Dave, I'm using 20 to 1 on this little room mic, and I just need a little more. And he goes, can you do something else, like a little steeper, a little harder? So I said, well, probably, it's just a few resistors or whatever. So I do this, change, give it back to him. He goes, come back the next night, and he says, perfect, that's what we wanted. He says, the room sounds big. It's only like 15 feet by 15 feet, but now it sounds like a big room. I said, okay, maybe I'll put this ratio in there. And I said, do you or Phil have any idea what to call it? And John said, Nuke. And that's how we got the Nuke name. So all these people have, I've got all other names here, but a lot of little people added this here and this there, and suggestions and feedback. So it's not just, it's not, I seriously doubt if one person ever is responsible for a successful product all the way through. So we like to acknowledge a lot of those people. And George, you also. So thank you for your leap of faith.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is a guy I worked with at Eventide that we both happened to leave just about the same time, and that was another fortuitous incident.
December in '95, I was getting ready to come to this NAMM show. Dave says, listen, I have this product, the Distressor. I've sold a couple dozen of them. And I know you're going to NAMM. Maybe if you took one to Bob Clearmountain and one to Steve Vai, I'd love it if you could help me sell 100 or 2. That'd be great. 19 years and 28,000 Distressors ago. What a lot of people don't know is, well, you can't see it in this picture, when Fletcher was playing with us back in the day and Dave didn't hear from him right away, he thought he didn't like it. So he called him up and said, hey, did you like the Distressor? Fletcher said, I didn't like it. I didn't even love it. It's way beyond that. I was elated by it. In fact, that's your model number, EL8. A lot of people don't know that. So, 19 years ago at this NAMM show in 1996, I brought the first pair out here. And thanks to Fletcher, George, and all of the dealers that have come to the NAMM show in the last 19 years, we were able to have this success. And I'd like to thank those dealers and Dave Derr for his loyalty and support for 20 years now. It's people like him that make this business creative and fun to be in. I'd rather have one guy like Dave than 2,000 corporate engineers. But nice to see you.